Welcome. Okay, let's dive straight into this because today we're looking at something absolutely foundational to understanding how the education sector actually operates and reports on its sustainability. We are unpacking the SASB activity metrics for the education industry. If you've ever stared at a school sustainability report and wondered, how on earth do I make sense of these raw numbers? Well, you're in the exact right place. We're going to transform those confusing data points into a crystal clear, comparable picture. Here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The problem of scale. 2. Defining activity metrics. 3. Enrollment and applications. 4. Course load and online percentage. 5. Teaching versus administrative staff. And finally, 6. Normalizing the future. Section 1. The problem of scale and how raw numbers can really mislead us. Imagine you're looking at a sustainability disclosure, right? Specifically one concerning data security, which is a massive topic in the SASB standards. You see that a school had a data breach affecting 250 students. Now, you got to ask yourself, is that a catastrophic failure or a relatively contained incident? Well, how do you compare a 50,000-student state university's data security breaches with a 500-student private college's breaches? It's pretty much impossible, because if the 500-student college has 250 records compromised, that's literally half their student body. But if the massive state university has the exact same number, it's just 0.5%. Raw numbers are, well, they're totally useless without an understanding of scale. Which brings us to Section 2, defining activity metrics, or as I like to think of it, defining the denominator. So the SASB framework provides a highly specific tool for this scaling problem. Right in the introduction of the standard, it defines activity metrics as, quote, metrics which quantify the scale of specific activities or operations by an entity and are intended for use in conjunction with the disclosure metrics to normalize data and facilitate comparison. Think of activity metrics as the great normalizer. If a sustainability disclosure is a fraction, your raw impact data is the numerator, right? These activity metrics serve as the denominator. They give us the essential context we need to make fair, accurate comparisons. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly where these operational metrics live. We're looking at 4 distinct activity metrics mapped out for the education sector, coded SVED000A through D. Now, these aren't just random statistics pulled out of thin air. They are deliberately chosen to give us a complete, holistic picture of an institution's operational footprint. Section 3. Enrollment and applications. Demand versus reality. Notice the really clear distinction drawn between an institution's current reality and its market demand. First, we have metric A, which is the number of students enrolled. This is your actual current student body size. Then we have metric B, the number of applications received for enrollment. By reporting both of these together, an institution isn't just telling us how big they are today, they're giving us a fully transparent window into their recruiting pipeline and overall market demand. But we have to be incredibly precise about what enrolled actually means here. The standard clearly states, quote, students enrolled is defined as those students who have matriculated into a program for which a degree, diploma, certificate, or other formal award is expected to be conferred. This is absolute key. It means a school can't just artificially inflate their scale by counting someone who took a casual non-credit weekend workshop. They have to be on a formal track. And this strict definition ensures our denominator remains solid, consistent, and trustworthy. Moving on to Section 4, course load and online percentage. Basically, intensity and delivery. Metric C asks for 2 very specific data points, the average registered credits per student and the percentage of those registered credits that are online. Now, why does this matter? Well, think about the real-world sustainability impacts. A school where students take massive credit loads entirely online has a completely different physical footprint, different utility usage, and vastly different data security vulnerabilities compared to a school where students take fewer credits entirely in physical brick-and-mortar classrooms. So knowing that online percentage, it contextualizes everything from facility expenses right down to cyber risk. Section 5, teaching versus administrative staff, giving us a look at the HR structure. For metric D, institutions are required to juxtapose their personnel by reporting 2 separate numbers. First, the number of teaching staff, and second, all other staff. This establishes an immediate operational ratio. Are we looking at an institution heavily invested in educators, or one with a massive, sprawling administrative footprint? When you're trying to evaluate where tuition dollars are actually going, this breakdown is incredibly revealing. So the crucial point is making sure we know exactly who goes into which bucket. According to Note 5 in the standard, quote, teaching staff include any faculty, adjunct and visiting faculty, instructors, and other educators directly involved in teaching roles. It is explicitly tied to the actual act of teaching. Everyone else, from recruiters and marketers to facilities managers and high-level administrators, they all fall into the all other staff category. This strict boundary is a real game changer because it prevents institutions from hiding administrative bloat inside a generic staff headcount. Finally, Section 6, normalizing the future, the accountability tools. You see, when an educational institution reports its sustainability data, whether that's about graduation rates, monetary losses from deceptive marketing, or data privacy, those numbers just don't exist in a vacuum. SASB activity metrics create a level playing field. By consistently reporting enrollment, demand, online course load, and staff ratios, institutions give administrators and investors the exact tools they need to make real apples-to-apples comparisons. It basically ensures we aren't unfairly penalizing a massive university just for having higher overall baseline numbers than a tiny college. Ultimately, this is all about transparency, because when you understand the scale, you understand the reality. Which leaves us with this final thought. Without these 4 strictly defined operational benchmarks to normalize the data, what is a raw sustainability report really hiding? Keep that in mind the next time you see a flashy statistic about an institution's performance. Always look for the denominator. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the right questions.